Welcome to Unbusy on Purpose, the podcast for small business owners who are over the hustle, the overwhelm, and that constant pressure to always be doing more. If your business feels like it's running you instead of the other way around, consider this your wake-up call. Here, we're going to slow it down, cut through the chaos, and actually take back control. I'm your host, Lucy Carter, and I'll be sharing real stories to help you feel less alone and practical tips that won't scramble your brain even more than it already is. Every week, I'll be here to remind you that by reconnecting with yourself, focusing on what really matters, and taking aligned action, you can have a business that fuels your life instead of draining it. No fluff, no guilt, just straight up guidance to help you feel confident, in control, and actually enjoy the ride of small business ownership. So go grab your coffee or your wine, there's no judgment here. Take a deep breath and finally give yourself permission to do business your way. Welcome to the first podcast of Unbusy on Purpose of 2026, guys. We made it into the new year. Today is the 2nd of January, and yeah, we did it. I just want to do something. Let's shake it off, shake everything off that happened in last year, and let's fucking get on with this year. But on that note, I also want to say, with a new year, with it being January, it also comes with a lot of pressure, I feel. Do you not? The pressure that, everyone's like, I'm going to be doing this. This is my New Year's resolution. And, oh, my goals are this. And I'm going to do it, and it all starts very positive. It really does. And it's all well and good. And it's all very necessary to have goals and ambitions and, putting them out there to the world. I get it. But I do feel like January comes with this fucking pressure of having to just get straight into things and just get on with it and doing all this stuff to, make this year the best year it can possibly be. And of course, all of those things matter. But I do feel like we're missing the mark on January. I feel like we've got it all wrong. So let's fucking throw that out the window for now. And I am going to say to you that I don't think January is about putting pressure on yourself to achieve all these goals and starting it with like this big fucking to-do list, which feels, like it's on steroids, right? It's just not necessary right now. I don't believe. I think January is about self-reflection of how you just got through that last year, some of the things that maybe you didn't get done and why, and also a really key point to, I think, what we should be focusing on in January is setting new boundaries. We all focus on setting new goals. What about setting new boundaries? I feel like that is a very important thing because I think we can learn from the lessons and experiences we've had in the last year and go, actually, where is it that I need to be either putting my energy into, or what energy am I attracting? And it all stems from what boundaries you have. And you can't go and kick goals and be confident in the goals that you're kicking or in the vision that you're creating if you don't know what your boundaries are. And it's so easy to just kind of get lost in other people's bullshit whilst not honoring your own bullshit, I want to say. But, we all have bullshit, and sometimes we kind of really shrink ourselves to not upset the apple cart with other people, even though people can do those things to us. And I think it's really important to know what it is we do and don't want to have going forward in this next year so that you can go and kick your goals, right? That is where I think January should start. So give yourself permission for this month to just settle down from, the chaos that has been Christmas and New Year and the silly season, and decompress from all of that. We've done a lot of socializing. Our social batteries are probably run out. I know mine have. Like I love being with my friends, family and stuff. But by the end of it, I'm like, okay, I've had the kids, we've got school holidays. And in all honesty, guys, school holidays give me anxiety. Don't know about you, but they do me. And it's a lot of pressure. It feels like a lot of pressure. The whole lead up to Christmas it's fun for kids mainly, but it's a lot of just doing and keeping up and trying to juggle lots of different things. So give yourself a break, give yourself a pat on the back. You got through a year, you have survived that with whatever had happened in the last 12 months. So it's okay if you're not getting straight back into everything. That's so much pressure. Let's just not put added shit in the cart, not necessary at this point in time. So I'll ask you a question. What boundaries do you think were crossed by others in this last year? Ask yourself that question, because I really want this episode to be about one, self-reflection of the last year and where things could have been done differently, or um how you can make 2026 better, or how you can not make the same mistakes again or go around in circles. So what is it for you that has not felt good? Someone's crossed a boundary, or you've crossed your own boundary, and not respected that. So for me, my story around that has been, um, so there's been some family drama since my dad passed away, and I did mention this on my last podcast. I won't go into detail because right now I don't feel like I want to. But I will say this: it's quite serious. It's not great, and it's not felt good, and it's been really, really challenging. However, um, there's been a situation where I have put myself in positions where I have felt uncomfortable in order to not make this other person uncomfortable, to try and appease their bullshit, basically. And I just got to a point where I was like, enough's enough. And I had to really build up the courage to get to this point. Let me add, this is not something that I feel comfortable doing. I don't like confrontation. I don't like um, causing drama, which is hilarious, right? When we get to these points where we feel like our boundaries have been crossed, um, generally the drama's already created by the other person. And we're just at this point now where we're like, fuck, I'm just allowing this shit to keep happening. So there came a point where I'd allowed this to keep happening to keep the peace, because I do want to rock the apple cart. I didn't want to make the other person feel uncomfortable when they were making me feel very fucking uncomfortable. So I had to, in the end, just pull up my big girl pants and say, hey, Lucy, going into this year, I need to be more assertive in how I'm feeling, and I don't have to do that in an unkind manner. It doesn't have to just be about family members or friends or anything like that. It's also within, your work scope. So, when clients are disrespecting your boundaries. But I had to sit with myself before actually going forward and saying something to this person. I had to sit with myself and be like, why am I feeling so shit about not saying something? Because every time I was in this person's presence, I was feeling so like, honestly, the feeling was like, it was painful. Like I would leave that experience and I would sometimes cry. And I'm like, this is not healthy. This is not, I'm not doing myself any favors by not saying something. And it's actually causing me a bit of distress. So I built up the courage, and there was a moment where I just was like, "Do you know what? Fuck it. Fuck it. The damage is already done. All I'm doing is standing up for myself and speaking up for myself and having a voice." And I feel like we do this a lot, and especially as business owners. Like, we don't want to say something, a client might be rude or whatever, and we go, "Oh yeah," and you kind of just suppress that shit because you don't want to lose them as a client, or you don't want to lose the money or whatever. Like, and in all honesty, we don't need that. Like, you don't need anybody to be making you feel like a piece of shit, like, ever, never. And I'm saying to myself, a boundary of mine this year, going into 2026, being now in 2026, is I am not going to put myself down or suppress my self-respect for the comfortability of somebody else. Like, that's not happening. That is not happening this year. I'm setting that as a very clear, firm boundary that anybody who crosses my path that tries to do that, I will be speaking up and I will be using my voice. And it's been a fear of mine to do this, to speak up and just be like, "Hey, call it out." And I feel like I conquered that with this situation, and it was quite a cathartic experience. It was stressful at the time and upsetting, and um, I went through all the emotions, anger, sadness, all the things. But at the end of the day, I have stood up for myself. I've stood up for the situation, and I was true to who I am, and I stood up for that part of myself. And I know that little Lucy would be like, "Fucking go you," you know. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I just built the courage up to do that. But now I've done it, this is going to carry me on through the next chapter of my life, not just 2026. Hopefully this is just now I've got that in me. I'm like, right, you're going to say something like that, I'm going to have my own back. Boundaries are something I think we kind of take for granted, and we just kind of go through life allowing people to kind of just stamp on them. But I think a lot of the times we just don't have clarity around what our boundaries are. No one really sits there and goes, "Actually, what is it that I'm not going to allow in, or I am going to allow in?" And sometimes it just takes a eye-opening situation for you to create boundaries, or maybe it just takes you listening to something like this and saying to yourself, "Actually, that sounds familiar. I think I'm going to have to sit down with myself and be like, right, who's crossed a boundary with me this year? And how did that happen?" Because people only cross boundaries when we don't set the boundaries for ourselves. Yeah, or we're not clear on them, like I just said. So it's really important that you can sit down with yourself and take maybe January. Actually, no, do take January to be your permission slip to not get straight into the doing, not, have to be like, "Right, this is it now, and I've got to do all the things in my business and set all these goals." And how about we set January as like, okay, that's been a big year. That's been a big couple of weeks. And have a look at what's happened in that time frame, and where things have triggered you, where things have come up, and where people have maybe misplaced your trust or whatever, and actually have a think about how going forward in this next chapter of 2026 and onwards, how those experiences and how that situation can actually help shape you and help you go forward with some self-respect and courage, and guide you to becoming that best version of yourself for your family, for you, for your business, for all the things, right? Because when we are allowing people to overstep our boundaries, regardless of whether you know what they are, at this point in time, we all have them deep rooted in within us. We actually need to be very conscious about them. So if we're not not conscious about what our boundaries are, if we're not actually thinking about it and being like, hey, what is this? Then yeah, people will overstep your boundaries. People will always try and sometimes succeed, right? But if they are succeeding, it means you don't have clarity around what your boundaries are. So if this episode can teach you anything, it'll teach you that when you do have boundaries, when you do set them, when you do clarify what they are and what they mean to you and why, then you will have more courage. You will have more strength and not have as much fear in certain situations. It's never comfortable to have to stand up to somebody and say how you feel. It's never going to be a comfortable position, but it's never comfortable allowing something or someone to disrupt your peace either. That's way more uncomfortable in my opinion. What I have actually learnt recently, it was way more uncomfortable for me to sit with this person and allow them to disrespect me and to make me feel like shit than it was to me to just go, actually, what you've said and done is actually not okay. And basically, don't ever fucking do that again. So if I hadn't have said that, I'd still be sitting in this like pit of my stomach and not feeling great and anxiety. And now I'm released of all that. There's still a lot of work to do, but I am released of that like suppression that I was feeling around it all. So yeah, if you've got something that is on your chest and someone is being an arsehole, right, then say something. Find that courage and say something. But first, you need to know what boundary they have crossed for you. So take January as your time to get clarity around that. And let's just have a very peaceful, as much as we can, peaceful 2026 and onwards. I hope that this podcast episode has stirred something up inside you. And if you've got something that's on your chest, then just say it. I will say though, always do it with kindness, always do it with authenticity at the forefront. I understand in challenging situations like that, like myself, you can get a bit angry and your emotions take over. But it has to come from a place of just speaking your truth and holding on to that, and that's what matters. I'd love to hear what you do or what you're planning on doing or what boundary you've gone like, fuck, I actually need to have this because this is ruining friendships or it's causing me stress. So yeah, share with me what yours are in the comments. I'd love to hear it, and I'd love to have this as an open discussion because we don't talk about it enough. And boundaries are a personal thing, and nobody is a mind reader. So unless we can voice that to somebody, how are you supposed to have healthy relationships? And even by saying something to someone, like for me, the conversation I had with this person, like we're that's it. I'm happy to kind of cut things, but there's certain situations where you can say something and it not be like this is the end. It's just like, this is to actually help and resolve and to fix and to hopefully not have something like this happen again. And that gives you more strength and control and peace as well. So what boundary is it that someone's crossed for you? And how are you going to be changing that or implementing that going forward? I'd love to hear what yours are in the comments. So please leave the comments. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends. Have a lovely rest of your week. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye.